What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where in this one we're going to talk a little bit about what we've done, right? And specifically what Chris Ballard did this offseason. And this front office, obviously, he's not alone. But, looking at Chris Ballard, he's the one that gets the credit. He's the one that gets the blame. And in this one, there's been so much said about Chris Ballard. I thought it'd be important and I thought it'd be the right thing to do to come back and say, hey, what a job. Chris Ballard, what a job he's done this offseason. Of course, if you enjoy the content, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on. I appreciate you guys stopping by another video. And in this one, as we continue to talk about this, I just want to go through and look at the situation and what he's done this offseason. And before we get into that, just to note that I was on a channel before this one called Horseman Sports. I was there with my uncle and my cousin. It was where I got my start on YouTube and really starting to get into this world. And we talked about the entire NFL, but whenever we talked about the Colts and whenever Chris Ballard came up and whenever I talked about Chris Ballard on Twitter or anything like that, talking with anybody about Chris Ballard, I always defended him. Right? Because the situation with the quarterback was crazy. He was just doing the best he could. And I thought over time he was building good rosters. The quarterbacks just weren't getting the job done. And over time, I think at one point that was true, and then the losing culture really set in, specifically in 2022, and I think things just kind of went downhill. The people that he was drafting, like all of a sudden, boom, all these guys going downhill. Shaq Leonard, unfortunately, probably retiring early in his career, going in the tank way too soon, right? And things like that really worked against Chris Ballard and got him to a point that even on this channel, man, when I started on this channel, a couple of years ago, it was like I was still defending Chris Ballard because of the situation and things just continuing to disappoint and not change, right? And because he wasn't changing, I lost faith that he was ever going to be able to change. I thought for sure he was going to get fired. I think a lot of us did. And when he didn't, he finally came out and he said the same thing he always says, right? He takes credit for things not working out. No, I could have been better, and this is what I could have done. But he told us what he was gonna do, and he went out and he did it. He said, hey, we don't close on deals in free agency very well. What'd they do? They went and got some incredible free agents and closed out on those deals to bring them to Indianapolis, right? Going into the draft. What did we need to do? We didn't hit on everything specifically that we needed to do, kind of in the order that, Colts fans and media, ranked of importance, but we went and got the tight end that we all wanted in Tyler Warren. Like, what an incredible offseason by Ballard, and just to come out and do what he said he was going to do. It's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to change in these ways and this is how I'm going to make the team better, but to come out and really do it, I think was a big deal, right? And we already had a video about, getting undrafted free agents in the building and creating more competition, which is exactly what you want. He said he was going to create competition everywhere, and that's exactly what we're doing. Those backup running back spots, the backup quarterback spot, all 4 quarterback spots are for competition. The back 3 running back spots are for competition. The wide receivers beyond the 3 starters up for competition. And even, with AD Mitchell and his development, like Alec Pierce can't get comfortable, right? Competition everywhere. Defensive side of the ball, for sure, there's going to be competition. There's going to be hard decisions being made as I started going through the roster and looking at who we could have and who could be on the active roster as we go into the season. Hard decisions are going to have to be made. Some longtime Colts that are usually on the roster, going to be, practice squad, could be cut candidates, whatever the case may be. But, really looking at just what Chris Ballard was able to do through this offseason and just a refresher kind of on what he was able to do. Jason Bean comes back. Spencer Schrader is now the Colts kicker of the future. Matt Gay goes away. And in this one, Spencer Schrader ends up being the kicker for the Colts. Signed him on a 2-year deal. So we'll see. Hopefully. He looked good last year. And every position he was thrown into, he looked good last year. So really confident with that. Tyler Goodson comes back after looking good at different points for the Colts over the last few years. Obviously going to be in a backup role, but where would he land on the depth chart is a question. Wesley French, who I think could end up on the active roster from week to week, depending on, do we bring in a veteran right guard or do we move people around with what we have on the roster? But Wesley French, a guy that I think could end up on the active roster going into the year. Khalil Herbert, bringing him in, huge. Somebody I've been a fan of for a while. Glad he's with us now. Segan Alubi, obviously bringing him back is a big deal, and having him as a depth piece for those linebackers seems like people are forgetting about him. They're like, oh, well, what if one of our linebackers gets in there? Well, Segan Alubi steps in, and I think he's a good option there, linebacker too. So feel good about him. We're going to have primarily two linebackers on the field, not all three. So okay with the way the roster is constructed, and with having Segan Alubi as the three there. Rodney Thomas, the cornerback, Rodney Thomas. Didn't even know that, to be completely honest with you. Cameron McGrone comes back. Of course, Cam Bynum, huge signing in free agency, coming from the Vikings, getting a big-time deal with the Colts, and bringing him in, going to be huge for the secondary. Secondary looking really good, honestly. It's really starting to look deep, especially after the draft, going and getting cornerback in the third round that I think could prove valuable in the future, and could possibly come in and let, with the defense we're going to be running, could let Kenny Moore kind of play a more aggressive sort of style throughout the defense. I also think Juju Brents could find heavy value as really a dime package linebacker type, right? Can play secondary. Obviously, he's a corner. He can play secondary, but he's such a big body and he plays such an aggressive style. I think that Juju Brent, if he could stay healthy, Juju could be effective in this defense. We're going to talk more about that. That's one thing as I look through the roster. That's going to have its own video. We're going to talk about Juju at some point throughout this offseason. Competition coming into this season, so we'll see what happens there. And of course, the big ticket signing for us this offseason, Charvarius Ward, coming in to really transform that secondary. That coming in as that cornerback one. Jalen Jones has been cornerback one since he was a rookie. Now he's cornerback two. And then you have Kenny Moore in the slot. Like, really, really like what we have in the secondary. Bringing Charvarius Ward and bringing Cam Bynum. It just, like, holy cow. We're all of a sudden really dangerous in the secondary, just with a couple of signings and adding with what we have, adding a new defensive coordinator and adding to the secondary prowess in the coaching staff on our defense. So really enjoy what we've been able to do. Obviously, Braden Smith restructures. So that helps us out, gives us some more cap space. So through free agency, I mean, really as good as you could really hope for from Chris Ballard. Like, again, we don't have the right guard completely figured out right now. People want another linebacker. But as I sit here and I look at the construction of the team, like how I'll look into linebacker options. I don't know where another linebacker fits in. When you start cutting down the roster, I don't know where another one fits in the defense that we're going to run. We need secondary players. So, and again, that is a conversation that we're definitely going to have at some point as we talk about the team more in depth and really talk about the roster. But when you look at the roster, like last year, it was almost really predictable who the 53 on the team were going to be. This year, like fairly predictable. But not completely predictable with some of the new additions that have come in, the depth, the new defensive coordinator and how he want the team to be constructed. Again, we're going to have to go heavy secondary, but I do think both sides of the ball will get 25. Then obviously specialists, you need 3 for the Spencer Schrader, Rigoberto Sanchez, long snapper, Luke Rhodes. So I think both sides of the ball will get 25. I think, again, we'll go secondary heavy. Defensive line, of course, going to be a little heavy. Offensive line, going to be fairly heavy, and there's going to be some hard decisions that have to be made there. And then, 6 wide receivers, 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 4 tight ends. That's kind of the way I see it. But again, we'll talk more about that. This more about, again, Chris Ballard, what he put together. So this is what we're looking at as of right now in terms of starters and like legit depth that we're going to see on the field, right? So you have Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, right? Hopefully Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, Khalil Herbert, Tyler Goodson, DJ Giddens. All 4 of those names matter. Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell. If you want to go beyond that, Ashton Doolin and Anthony Gould. And then, of course, going into tight ends, you have Tyler Warren now, Jelani Woods, if he can stay healthy, Mo Cox as a blocker, Drew Ogletree. It's a little bit of both, not really much of a playmaker. And then, of course, the offensive line, where we know we're pretty well. We look pretty good on the offensive line. Bernie, Big Q, Tanner Bortolini. Of course, the right guard position, who right now, as a right guard, Dalton Tucker is in that position. Braden Smith. But we have Matt Gonsalves we just drafted. Jalen Travis. Then we have Danny Pinter and Wesley French. Like, those are names that we're going to need to know because injuries happen. Then on defensively, Kwity Paye, Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, Samson Ebicon coming back, Latu, Tommy Ade, Neville Gallimore getting signed, JTT, who we just drafted and could make an immediate impact, and will definitely be making an impact by the end of the season. Isaiah Lane and Tyquan Lewis as depth pieces at that point, right? And then you look at, Jalen Carlies, however that's pronounced, Zaire Franklin, Segan Alubi, Karen McGrone, Liam Anderson, Austin Ajak, Charvarius Ward, Nick Cross, Cam Bynum, Jalen Jones, Kenny Moore, Samuel Womack, Rodney Thomas, Juju Brents, Justin Wally, and then, of course, Hunter Wohler, who we just drafted. Just so many names and some others that we're not even mentioning, but like I just tried to mention names that like we're going to hear about, right? And that's almost the 53. Pretty much just named the 53. And so this season, it's going to be a little bit different, but the talent is there. Shout out to Chris Ballard for putting this roster together. I mean, just a roster full of talent from 1 to 53, one of the best Colts rosters I can remember us having from top to bottom. Really impressed with Chris Ballard. Really thankful for Chris Ballard for changing in the ways that we knew he needed to change, and shout out. Hopefully it works out. Of course, we need the quarterback to work out. Nothing matters if the quarterback doesn't work out, but I have faith in Anthony Richardson's work ethic and the man that he's becoming, and I have faith that with the work that he's putting in this offseason, we're going to see a better Anthony Richardson going forward. And of course, that transformation with the team is going to start with mini camps coming up. Hopefully there's some content that comes out with that. And then June is obviously pretty dead time in terms of Colts news, but we'll do what we can there in June. And then July, of course, near the end of July, it'll be time for training camp, and then we'll really get rolling into the season. We're getting pretty close. We should be less than 3 months away at this point to the start of training camp. It's usually right around July 24th is when the Colts typically, at least I think over the last couple of years, have started training camp July 24th. So should be a little less than 3 months away from really starting to get rolling into the Colts season. But feel like we have a good idea of where we stand right now. And again, shout out to Chris Ballard for changing his ways. You guys let me know your opinion on Chris Ballard. How you feeling about Chris Ballard now that he's kind of changed his philosophy, really put the roster together? Do you think if things don't work out with the quarterback, do you think he still deserves to have a job? Do you think he needs to get fired and somebody else brings in a new quarterback and changes the team? What do you think should happen this year with Chris Ballard, with the way he's handled this offseason? You let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Love to hear what your guys' opinion is on this matter now that we're at this point. And of course, if you enjoy the content, again, hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you continue to get notified anytime we drop any content on this channel. Of course, appreciate you stopping by for another video. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.